program because, of course, we are still tracking what's going on with the oil spill and the wreck that's stuck on our shores. Of course, the search to figure out where it came from, all of that stuff. And you're going to be pleased to know that I'll be joined this morning, first of all, by Mr. Logan Williams, and he is a data scientist and researcher and software developer with Bellingcat. And we're also going to be talking with Mr. Darian Mitchell, and he is a GIS specialist with TEMA. And he's the one that's been responsible for those maps that you see in that pretty much depicts where the oil spill is leaking out to, how far the oil slick is moving, and so on. So we're going to be chatting with him about some of the things that he's been finding as he's been doing this GIS mapping throughout. And then we're going to be ending things with a conversation with Creed and Lady Nuts, a new podcast within our space. Find out what that's all about towards the end of our show this morning. And, just to give a little idea of the latest information in regards to the wreck and the oil spill and the leak and stuff, we've had the Tiger tanks, frac tanks up in Tobago, and they are being used to successfully contain what's been taken out of the water. And from all reports with team and so on, it seems as though that has been working very well in terms of speeding up the suctioning process and so on. And things are coming together. It's still an uphill battle, still a lot more to be cleaned, and certainly the rocks and that sort of thing that's posing a challenge, but it is coming along. And the teams, again, we're going to continue to say thank you for all the teams that are on the ground and making things happen. But now getting into our first conversation this morning. Now, you may have seen that article from Bellingcat regarding the search for the badge and identifying that badge that's stuck on the reef that's named Gulfstream. And here is one of the people that's very central to this investigation, Mr. Logan Williams. And of course, he's a data scientist and researcher and software developer. So special good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Williams. How are you doing this morning? We seem to have some audio problems. I'm not sure if you're still muted on your end. All right, I think we'll be connected with him as our team gets that audio sorted. But yes, if you've seen this article that pretty much details what it took to identify the vessel, and this information was released just last week, and it's quite in depth, some of the research that has been going into trying to figure out first of all where this badge from, and what Bellingcat and Mr. Williams and his team has been doing was being able to track the previous ownership of the vessel, match some of the physical features to what they know that are existing within our space, and so on to sort of identify things. Okay, so I think we have Mr. Williams back on. Good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Williams.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. So great to hear you, and such a pleasure it is to have you on our program.
Good morning. Yes, thank you very much for having me on.
All right. Now, first of all, I just want to get from you, what intrigued you about this investigation and why you put your energy and resources into it?
Sure. So I should, I think, start by explaining who Bellingcat is and how we investigate things. So Bellingcat is a group of researchers. We're a nonprofit based in the Netherlands that investigate things around the world using what's called open source information, which is publicly available information that we can find on the internet or with satellite imagery or government records or other data sources like that, that if you piece them together in the right way, they can tell a story of what happened. And we focus in several main areas. One of those is conflicts, war, and human rights. And another one of those areas is the environment. So when I saw that there had been this mysterious oil spill in Tobago and that the vessel had still not been identified, I was really curious what we might be able to learn through looking for open source information and putting it together, and if that might tell a story. And it turns out that it did.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you were able to at least track the previous ownership of the vessel. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you guys were able to find?
Sure. So in the previous investigation published last week, we were able to identify that the vessel was a barge that had previously operated in the United States, but we weren't able to find out too much about who it had been associated with in recent years. We actually just about 20 minutes ago published a second investigation with more information that we've found that allows us to tell a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So what we've found in the second investigation is that the barge came from Panama, where it had been docked for 15 months and had been renamed to the Sea Marlin while it was docked there.
Right. And, what else can you tell us about even the company that would have had it in Panama?
Yeah, so we don't know too much about what happened to it after 2022 when it arrived in Panama. But before 2022, open source information that we've found has connected it to a company called Imagery Group. And we document this in the latest investigation. And Imagery Group has previously been suspected of transporting oil for Venezuela. There was a US federal court case in 2020 about that. But after this vessel went to the port of Amoy, Venezuela, where it was docked up at a shipyard there, we don't know if it still has any connection to Imagery Group. So we're not able to say anything about the companies it might be associated with recently, but we have put together new information showing when it first started operating in the Caribbean.
And there was also some information that you shared even on the original article about just the connection might be to possible illegal fuel trading that has been plaguing our region and of course other parts of the world. Has this been something that's occupied your attention at Bellingcat?
Yes, it's something that we've been looking into in this investigation. And of course, we're not able to say for sure that anything illegal happened, and we're not alleging that. What we do see when we look at the path of the Solo Creed and the Gulf Stream as it made its way on the ill-fated voyage was that there was a 13-day period of time when the ship turned off the AIS system that transmits the location of the ship. This is an essential part of any ship because it makes sure that other ships know where you are, and it keeps the waters safe for other mariners. It turned it off for 13 days, and then when it turned it back on, it was 375 kilometers away. So that's a distance that normally takes about 3 days to sail, and we don't really know what the vessel did during that 13-day time period.
And I know you have access, of course, to some satellite imagery. Can you just give us some insight into what was some of that imagery telling you?
So one thing that we noticed and just published on Bellingcat.com is that a satellite image of the vessel...
We're having some audio. Okay, there we go.
Apologies. One thing that we noticed in satellite imagery and just published on Bellingcat.com is that the vessel on February 3rd already had a significant oil trail coming from it. It was actually already 40 kilometers long of a thin stream of oil. So we think that this might indicate that it was already leaking as early as February 3rd. And then we also discovered an image that appears to show it capsized, the Gulf Stream capsized, on February 6th. So we think that it might have already had its incident and capsized prior to showing up on Tobago shores on February 7th.
And, when you all discovered some of this information, what was the reaction of your team in-house?
Yeah, the team was enthusiastic. One of the really nice things about the way that we work is because we work with publicly available information, we're able to work with all kinds of people. We don't have to keep secrets as we do investigations. So we worked on this with Bellingcat's Discord community, which is a community of volunteers that are good at finding things on the internet and that have an interest in particular areas like shipping or the environment. And the community came together and we were able to piece together this information.
What was also interesting, as part of your investigation and as part of the attempt to identify the vessel was even just the work that went into even the establishing the 3D models and that sort of thing. One of the things that the divers said to us as they went down and they were trying to figure out this vessel and what it is and all of that sort of thing was that the superstructure of the vessel, where the captain's quarters and that sort of thing may be, that appears to be gone. From your research, do you think that was either cut off or prior to its voyage or prior to this whole incident, or might have broken off as well when it came into, share with us some of your insights.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the superstructure of the ship. We haven't found data on that might allow us to piece it together. What I can share is that we were contacted by a person that used to be the chief engineer on the Gulfstream barge when it operated in the United States. And he shared technical details about how the barge was built and the configuration of the oil tanks. And we have been able to get that information to surveyors working on the cleanup effort on the ground in Tobago.
Mm-hmm. And then what can you share with us in terms of the capacity of the vessel?
I don't have the figures offhand. So I apologize. I don't want to quote an incorrect number.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, but what you've presented, though, it's very comprehensive, and certainly we appreciate this information as we are here still trying to figure out a whole lot of this mystery and trying to piece it together. And I mean, as it's clear, there's a whole lot of missing pieces, even from what you guys have been able to find, and it suggests that perhaps this whole situation was part of those ghost fleets that we've been hearing about that's been going on around the world, I would say.
Yeah, what I think this highlights is some of the areas that ships can slip through the cracks in the international systems of accountability and registration. What we've seen, of course, is that this barge, the Gulfstream, doesn't have an IMO number that has been discovered. And the reason for that is that the IMO does not issue numbers to unpowered barges, only to boats that have their own motors. But of course, that can be an issue if that unpowered barge has an incident and the tugboat that is associated with it vanishes. And that we've also seen that the use of flags of convenience, places where ship owners can register their vessel that don't have laws requiring that information to be public or requiring the owners to be identified. And then often it is the case that these vessels that are opaquely registered, that hide what they're doing, they're old vessels, and they maybe haven't been maintained super well. And the Gulfstream was 48 or 50 years old at the time of the incident, which is quite old for an oil tanker. The information we have from the chief engineer is also that it used to be an asphalt tanker, which required heating and cooling the cargo repeatedly, which produced further stress and cracks in the hull of the vessel. We don't have information about whether that contributed to the accident, but it does show the need, I think, for more regulation, especially about maintenance and certification of ships. Because if a ship has an accident anywhere, that affects not just the country it's registered, but all of the countries around it.
Mm-hmm. And that was certainly something that came up in some of the research I've been doing in terms of, how we even treat the flags of convenience and and in some ways, that matter was brought up by the UN 50 years ago, but it was never passed. And now we're here so many years later, and a small island like ours in the Caribbean are now having to do the cleanup mess from something like this.
Absolutely. And I hope that this small island maybe could play a large role in building pressure to change some of the regulation around shipping.
Mhm. And as we get ready to wrap up our interview this morning, and of course, I just want to really thank you for being on with us. It's such a pleasure to be able to have your insights. Is there anything else that about this whole investigation? Anything else that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think it's been really inspiring to watch over social media the island coming together to help clean up the oil spill. I've seen lots of posts showing before and after pictures, and I just won on Tobago all of the best in terms of the ability to restore the natural environment and to remove the vessel safely.
I want to thank you so much. And certainly, we were looking forward to see what other information that you guys gather as the time goes on, because I know this is something that is certainly capturing your attention at this point in time. And we're very, very grateful for your work.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you. And viewers, well, we're going to have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back just after this. So don't go anywhere.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise.